This is not as easy as I thought it was going to be. I'm into take 4. Luckily, I like my coffee. When I was a child, I would watch a television show called The Friendly Giant. The Friendly Giant lived in a castle. He had Jerome the Giraffe and Rusty the Rooster as friends. He played a flute. Actually, it was a recorder, I think. And he had a big old rocking chair for people to rock in, and he had a bigger chair for two to cuddle up in. And when y'all came in, he would tell you stories. I hope I can tell a story as good as he used to one day. So I'm going to try again and talk to you about serendipity, which is a big word like marmalade. Really means things that happen by chance. And often it's the important things in your life, or in mine anyway, that have happened by chance. One of the most crucial times in my life was when I was in Kitimat Village. That's just how I got there. Is mostly a very long story, but the important part, the serendipitous part at this point, is that one of the leading ladies in the village, a marvelous lady, Marjorie Shaw, really loved her church. And she really believed that the church needed a minister, a pastor, who could lead them in music, because Kitimat loved music. Still does. I mean, consider for a moment, folks, that on a good Sunday I'd have 10, 15 people come to church. But when it came time for the something important, and the choir was called into action. The choir didn't sing every Sunday, by the way. It just didn't do that. There'd be maybe 35 to 50 people show up in the choir. They loved their music. They loved it so much that when it was choir time, the person that was in the choir that stood right beside the pulpit had a very important task to do. When it was time for singing, they would reach over and shut off my microphone, because I got one terrible singing voice, and they didn't want the choir to be embarrassed. You can see how seriously they took their singing there. Anyway, serendipitous. I was in desperate need of finding a small village or community of some sort that needed a lay minister. And I'll tell you about that another time. But I had gotten to the point where I needed out of school and into a pulpit, into a community where I could be a pastor. And Kitimat Village needed a pastor. The United Church of Canada needed to find people that could be enrolled in a new program to develop Indigenous ministry in Native communities on the west coast of Canada. They were having a certain amount of trouble finding Native people with the desire, the ability, and at the time, most importantly of all, the academic credentials to enroll in a master's program at the Vancouver School of Theology, because they wanted to keep their credentials up for whatever reasons. Undoubtedly, they were good at the time. But as they couldn't find anybody, they looked around, and there was me. I had been a lighthouse keeper. I had been on the Thomas Crosby 5 as a deckhand. I had been in and out of the villages on the Crosby, and I had developed a bit of a reputation. On the Crosby, if you needed spiritual advice, you went to Oliver. If you needed something fixed, you went to Robin the engineer. If you needed a shot for your kid, you went to the nurse. If you wanted a cup of coffee and a cigarette, you went and had one with Lil the cook. If you needed something carried, packed, or somehow moved, you went to Brian. He was the deckhand. It's what I did. But apparently I did it with a smile, and people seemed to like me. So when they started looking for a minister for Kitimat Village, they brought my name forward. And Marjorie Shaw bless her soul, she's gone for her reward now, decided that I should be the one because she remembered I played a real good guitar and a flute, and I sang real well. So she cast a deciding vote, and as often happened in the village, when women decided it was going to happen, it happened. So there I was, going on just before Christmas, and there I am, going into the village in a snowstorm. And the first Sunday, Marge is there. She says, "Where's your guitar?" I said, "I don't have one." She said, "Where's your flute?" I said, "I don't play a flute." She said, "Well, you can lead us in singing." And I thought, "Not really, because I got a terrible voice." And she said, "But that's why I said you should come, because you play the guitar and the flute, and you always did when the Crosby showed up." And I said, "No, Marge, you're thinking of Robin. He did all that. I was the deckhand that nobody ever let sing." And she looked at me and realized the terrible mistake she'd made. And she felt really bad about it. Well, as it turned out, the people found me a reasonable sort. And it worked very well in the village. Good things happened. Not only for me, I like to think, but for the village also. And that is what serendipity is all about. I actually had no business being there because I wasn't what anybody really thought I was. But it turned out that what I was what the village needed, and we were a good fit. It's often been my experience that it's the chance things in life that make a difference, a real difference in the life. Certainly getting into the village changed my life. It's where I've met my present wife of 20 years. I have lifelong friends from the village and connections. And when I die, some of my ashes go back to that place and get sprinkled so that my soul can rest a little easier with my old friends. And that is serendipity. And how I became a pastor. And you'll hear more about the village in other stories. Take care, have a good time, and enjoy your coffee if you drink it. Bye-bye.